less than 2 months removed from the assassination of Charlie Kirk at the Utah Valley University campus, and guess what? The left has not stopped celebrating that assassination. Now, of course, we have documented on this channel before all the different various TikToks that ended up celebrating and cheering Charlie Kirk's shooting before he was even confirmed to be dead, because this is who broad portions of the left are. And if you don't remember that, let me play you a little bit of a mashup of those celebration videos right here before we continue.
I have breaking news. We think that Charlie Kirk just got shot in the neck. Hey, ooh, yeah, ooh.
The best part of this whole goddamn thing is that he is not martyr material, so his death will mean nothing. It will activate no one. It will impact few. It's just great.
And the last thing on this today, yes, I am a better person than you for celebrating the death of a Nazi. And actually, it's pretty weird that you're not, and simultaneously asking people to have empathy for the Nazi. Y'all good?
But again, it is not just randoms on TikTok.com. Those videos have hundreds of thousands of views, likes, and shares. And again, the idea that it's okay to murder right-wing people because they disagree with you is so prevalent among the left wing that shortly after the shot was fired against Charlie Kirk, you could actually see people in the crowd celebrating his assassination in real time, because again, the left is this comfortable with the murder of their political opponents. Now, in addition to the college kids, the TikTokers, and all these different various people, you also had members of Congress like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez defaming Charlie Kirk on the House floor, did an entire video on that. You had Ilhan Omar reposting a video on her X feed that blamed Charlie Kirk for creating his own assassin one day after his assassination. You also had her go on with Mehdi Hassan and laugh it up about Charlie Kirk's assassination, again, celebrating it without actually fully embracing it. But again, there are many other figures on the left-wing media that just can't help themselves but cheer on the assassination of Charlie Kirk, and of course have decided to take shots at everybody, including Charlie Kirk's wife. And a perfect example of this is Kyle Kulinski, who initially, in reaction to Charlie Kirk's assassination, decided to say, oh, well, Charlie Kirk's in favor of the Second Amendment, so therefore, yeah, he kind of had it coming in this clip right here.
Here's something that Charlie had regularly argued, and, you know, hard disagree on this one, man, but, quote, I think it's worth it to have a cost of, unfortunately, some gun deaths every single year so we can have the Second Amendment to protect our other God-given rights. That is a prudent deal. It is rational. So, hey, some gun deaths every year are worth it for Second Amendment rights. It's like, well, I mean, now you're one of those people.
Now look, I know some people who are defenders of Kyle Kulinski are going to say, well, Charlie Kirk did say that gun deaths as a consequence of having the freedom to have a Second Amendment is a good and prudent deal that we should make. Therefore, it's ironic that he died in this way. But what I want you guys to really stop and think about for just a moment is if somebody was making the case that we should ban cars, and they listed all the negatives associated with cars, and of course, the deaths that are caused by car accidents, and then somebody decided to stand up and say, listen, yes, there are downsides to having the freedom to own and operate a motor vehicle. That being said, the upsides are definitely worth it. And yeah, although we are going to have a certain amount of car accident related deaths in this country, I still think it is a prudent deal, because think about what our nation would be without ground-based transportation like trucks or cars or whatever. We would not be able to move goods around the nation as efficiently. And by the way, the interstate highway system alone, as we talked about on this channel, generates about $760 billion of economic activity. So yeah, we make these trade-offs all the time. Now, if that person died in a car accident, would it be okay to celebrate that person's death immediately, like before their body was cold, like Kyle Kulinski did? I would think not. I would think that would be rather disgusting to do, especially when you consider that Kyle Kulinski is also somebody who shares his opinion for a living on the internet.com. And obviously, I have this worldview, and I've talked about it before multiple different times, but there should be some kind of, you know, unity, at least to a certain degree, of the people on this side of the camera against people who would try to kill them on the other side of the camera out out there in the audience, because obviously if you end up catering to a culture that embraces the psychos, that target people for sharing opinions they don't like online, that leaves all of us vulnerable. But Kyle Kulinski has none of that. He doesn't give a damn about people on the right. He wants you to die. And in addition to that, he will go out of his way to mock your dead relatives, your dead spouse, just so he can make political points, because he thinks it's acceptable to do this, even though, again, he would not like this to be done to him. But of course, Kyle has decided to take it a step further. He actually recently posted on his X account this image right here. And for those of you who are listening via podcast, what this is a Spirit Halloween costume that depicts Erika Kirk, Charlie Kirk's wife, again, the spouse of the person who was assassinated for political speech that Kyle Kulinski disagreed with. And it is labeled "Fake Grieving Widow Grifter Costume, includes fake teardrops, skin-tight black leather morning pants." And of course, it depicts Erika Kirk with tears streaming down her face, her mascara is running, leather pants, and a hat full of money. Look, I want you guys to understand that the reason that Kyle Kulinski posted this is twofold. And the first part of that reason is because Kyle Kulinski hates the right wing, and he's okay with people being murdered. He celebrates the murder of his political opponents, which honestly is perfectly fitting as somebody who identifies as a socialist, because there's a reason that these people always end up killing massive amounts of people in order to achieve their ends. It's because they actively despise anyone that disagrees with them, and they know for a fact that they cannot get their way unless they murder dissenters. So let's be clear, Kyle Kulinski is 100% in favor of that. But in addition to that, we also have a bunch of other things that I find to be incredibly hilarious. First and foremost, there's the targeting of Erika Kirk's leather pants. And by the way, a lot of people have targeted her for warmly embracing JD Vance at a recent event as well, saying that this hug was too much of a hug, even though people have posted images, not that you needed to do so, of Erika Kirk hugging women in this exact same way. This is just her style of warm embrace. And a lot of people have been pushing the narrative that Erika Kirk is not grieving in the appropriate way, because there are certain instances where you see Erika Kirk smiling or happy, or of course focused on forwarding Turning Point USA, which by the way is of course Charlie Kirk's legacy. Now I'm not going to go over every single example of apparently Erika Kirk not grieving the proper way, because I don't know if you guys know this, I don't know if you guys are aware of this, but people who have no life experience, who've never actually grieved a loved one, expect grief to look how it looks in the movie, where you're wearing all black, you're at a funeral where it's raining, everybody has a black umbrella, and everybody has sad faces while a swell of sad music plays constantly in the background. Now, of course, this is not actually how it works. This is not actually how grief tends to operate on a human being, and if you've actually gotten to the point in your life where you've grieved somebody, you would know this. And a perfect example of this that people like to use against Erika Kirk is her on the Charlie Kirk show talking about how she has plans from Charlie Kirk and smiling when she's talking about it.
We have decades worth of my husband's voice. We have unused material from speeches that he's had that no one has heard yet. We have Sunday specials lined up to the brim because my husband was so intentional about making sure that there was enough content. Always.
Yeah. He made sure we recorded everything.
Everything.
He would not do a speech unless we could get the video and the
100%. So we have speeches that no one's heard of. We have interviews that no one's heard of. We have stuff from Korea and Japan that no one's heard of.
Podcasts.
So, I mean, in the words of my husband, buckle up, because there is a lot of content to be had. And we have so many amazing things down the pipeline that we are working on currently that will
unveil in due time.
I am so excited. Yeah. And so,
by the way, those are things Charlie himself
that he wanted.
We were working on some big things, right up until the end, and we've talked about that a lot. Like a lot of the guiding vision that we're using right now to kind of steady the ship and figure out where we're going is the things Charlie himself 100%. Told us where we were going.
100%. And similar with Turning Point USA, Charlie had a plan moving past 2030 that he's shared with the team and has implemented. So we're not going anywhere.
We have the blueprints.
We have the blueprints. We have our marching orders, and we are just remaining humble and grateful to God, and remaining just stewards to what God has blessed us with. And I know Charlie's going to continue to guide us, and the Lord will continue to guide us. And I just wanted to let everyone know that this is far beyond any of us sitting in these chairs. This has nothing to do with us. It never will. The glory all to God on that front. And I just am excited. It's weird to say excited, but it's also very surreal to say it, because I know that God will use all of this in a way that will glorify him, further Charlie's legacy. And Charlie's up in heaven just
he's rooting us on. I know that.
He's so rooting us on.
Now, if you're stupid, and I mean really, really stupid, or evil, by the way, then you would listen to that. You would see the smile on her face and be like, oh, there you go. Not grieving hard enough right there in that moment, because, you know, people have never thought about the idea of putting on a brave face. And again, what it means to pick up the baton from somebody who has passed away and try to move forward with their mission. But again, anybody who has grieved somebody, that has found something that their dead loved one has left for them to actually carry on after they passed away, has likely gone through a similar cycle of emotions that we would see from Erika Kirk, where you're happy, you're honored, you're proud. It makes you think fondly of that individual. And a lot of times what ultimately ends up happening is those positive memories after you lose someone end up churning into sad memories, because again, you have that memory or that moment broken by the point where you realize that person is no longer with us. So to me, the people who are constantly ragging on Erika Kirk's grief, again, fall into three categories, which are stupid people that don't understand grief beyond a child level of understanding. And again, this is a concept that is supposed to be understandable by a child, so much so that in the Disney Pixar movie Inside Out, there's a scene where the happy orbs, which represent happy memories, end up getting tainted, theoretically, or they're perceived to be tainted in the movie with the sad energy, creating something. You have a mixture of emotions, memories that both make you happy and sad at the same time. But I understand a lot of people on the internet.com do not have the emotional complexity of the intended audience, a PG audience for that movie. So again, I understand that that's a big ask. So there are people in that category. Then there are obviously evil people who know what they're doing is wrong, know what they're doing is evil, that are just trying to take advantage of it. And then there's a second branch of evil people who are trying to profit off of this, promote their own conspiracies, and do all of these disgusting things in order to benefit themselves. And they don't care who they hurt in the process, because they never cared about Charlie Kirk. Now, Kyle is in category 2, but make no mistake about it, another reason why Kyle Kulinski is just assuming that Erika Kirk happens to be grifting off of this particular death of her husband is because this is not only exactly what Kyle Kulinski would do, this is what Kyle Kulinski has done. Now, I know a lot of you might not have seen this video, but this is a video during the Democratic primary where Kyle Kulinski is trying to get people to vote for Bernie Sanders instead of Joe Biden. And of course, Joe Biden ended up demolishing Bernie Sanders. And he decides to tell a personal story about the death of his father in order to emphasize the importance of Bernie Sanders' campaign and, of course, Medicare for all. Let me play that clip for you right here.
My dad is dead because we don't have Medicare for all. He very well could be alive today if we had Medicare for all. He didn't have insurance. He avoided going to the doctor for his back pain. He went to a freaking chiropractor instead to save money. It was a tumor. By the time he went to the emergency room, it was too late. He died very soon thereafter. So Joe Biden is saying, okay, under my administration, I would pursue policies that still have your dad die, Kyle.
So that's Kyle Kulinski saying in clear and unambiguous terms that his dad died because he couldn't afford to go to the doctor. He had cancer. It was left undiagnosed until he went to the emergency room. And the only thing that could have saved him was Bernie Sanders. And then he takes it a step further, saying Joe Biden has a policy that says Kyle's dad should die, while Bernie Sanders has a policy that says that that's not the case. Now, of course, this could be a moving, emotional story. That was the intended goal of Kyle Kulinski, to use his father's death in order to push his policy agenda. But as long as this is a true story, I guess it's no big deal. People often use emotional anecdotes in order to push you in the right direction. That is part of the game of politics. But the thing is, this is a false story. This is a lie. Years prior to this, Kyle Kulinski told the story of how his dad died. And notice how different the story is when it's not about Bernie Sanders versus Joe Biden, and it's actually about Kyle Kulinski's annoyance with chiropractors in particular, because I think this is quite telling.
Not many people know this, and I don't think I've spoken about this on air yet. But one of the reasons my father died young is because of a chiropractor. Okay, you're probably thinking, whoa, what the f***, are you serious? So my father, he smoked heavily his whole life. He died at the age of 56, okay, from lung cancer. And the cancer metastasized all over the place. Now, he's one of those guys who has this belief system that I totally disagree with. I always have. The idea that you never go to a doctor. Okay, you don't trust doctors, you never go to doctors, yada, yada. Well, that was problem number one. Problem number two is when he started having some back pain, he didn't go to a doctor. He knew a chiropractor from the place where he would golf all the time.
Did you catch the difference right there? You have Kyle Kulinski telling the story, again, without a political agenda in him telling the story. And in that version of the story, his father is somebody who smoked a lot. And of course, he's somebody who refused to go to the doctor, a mentality that Kyle Kulinski fully rejects. And because of this, because he didn't want to go to the doctor and he played golf with a chiropractor, when he ended up having back pain, he ended up going to a chiropractor rather than a physician. And that is one of the reasons why Kyle Kulinski believes that his father's cancer was undiagnosed and he died at the early age of 56. Now, obviously, we are sorry for Kyle Kulinski's loss. That's absolutely terrible, but we understand that the actions of his father not trusting doctors himself and deciding to go with a chiropractor that he played golf with was the thing that likely led his cancer to be undiagnosed. In addition to that, smoking 2 packs a day, not good for your health. But again, fast forward a couple of years when it's all about trying to save Bernie Sanders' flailing presidential campaign, and Kyle Kulinski completely changes up the story. He uses the death of his father that had nothing to do with Medicare for All, because presumably if you didn't like doctors when we didn't have Medicare for All, you wouldn't like them after we had Medicare for All, and had everything to do with his own father's personal decisions. Yet Kyle Kulinski decided to use that death in order to push his own agenda, which again, he might say it's worth it because Medicare for All is good and noble, but do you not think that Erika Kirk believes in the causes that she's advocating for as well? So obviously what we see right here is projection from Kyle Kulinski. He would do this to his dead relative, so he assumes that people on the right are as sick and twisted and are just as big a scumbag as he is. And it's very important for you guys to understand that the Kyle Kulinski mentality is something that is held by huge portions of the left. They look down on you. They despise you. They want you not only to die, but they'll also attack and defame your relatives post your brutal murder because they see you as an obstacle to their own power. So when they say they want to take care of healthcare or take over housing or take over huge portions of the economy in order to help you, understand that they are 100% lying. They want to use that power and they will use that power in order to hurt you because that's who they are. Remember, this is the same left wing that wanted you denied medical procedures because you didn't want to take the vaccine. This is the same left wing that wanted your travel to be restricted because you didn't want to take it. These are the same people that celebrated denying you food at grocery stores or restaurants because you didn't want to do this. And of course, they cheered on the shutting down of your business, everything you worked for, your job, because they thought they knew better than you. And by the way, huge portions of them got to work remotely, so they were able to sacrifice you for the greater good while they enhanced their own powers. So never forget who these people are. Never forget how monstrous they are. And as of right now, that's all I really have for you guys today. So if you like this video, show them by leaving a like, subscribe for more content, follow me on my social medias, support me via the support links in the description of this video. This has been me talking about Kyle Kulinski celebrating Charlie Kirk's murder again. Till next time.